Bill Maher is coming so close to actually understanding conservatives in this country, and I do like that he attempts to push back, but I got to tell you, he keeps falling back into this knee-jerk default position in the wake of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where he tries to say, oh, but both sides are guilty. Both sides are responsible. All right, fine. But let's listen to what Bill Maher had to say. He had frontman for Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan, on his podcast. Take a listen, and then we'll explain the truth of the matter.
I might drink a little more than usual today because, I don't know when this is airing, but this is a shit day because a guy who sat there, Charlie Kirk, got shot today.
Yeah.
And I can't stop thinking about it.
Neither can I.
And we shouldn't. And if you're on the other side of the political divide and you don't care because the wrong team guy got shot, fuck you. You're what's wrong with this country.
Good for him. And that wasn't the end of the good stuff that Bill Maher said here, calling out his pals on the left, calling out his friends in the Democrat Party. He's still a man of the left. Make no mistake. But he is rightly calling out the violence that they're showing.
You know, they're the people who don't want to talk. It's my main issue with them. And Charlie Kirk was a guy who, he was always talking. And I talked to him here. You know, the right-wingers say what you want about them, but they talk to you. They're not into this leftist think. The left really has much more of a, I don't talk to you, I don't want to deal with you, you're deplorable, I can't break bread with you.
Yeah.
That attitude, and all the right-wingers, they don't have that attitude. No, again, I didn't vote for them. And Charlie Kirk and I certainly don't agree on much politically, but he sat here. He's a human being. He's not a monster.
And a husband and a father.
Yes. And I liked him. I liked them all. They're all nice people when you meet them in person. And they're not as crazy as they would. Nobody's as crazy as they make them out to be. And we're never going to solve this unless it begins with both sides agreeing we both do it.
Okay, now this is where he starts to venture into the both sides thing, and we're going to delve into it. But I just want to stop for a moment and observe something. You see, the reason why Bill Maher starts to seem a little bit more reasonable here than his counterparts on the left, his Stephen Colbert's and his Jimmy Kimmel's and his Seth Meyers and the Saturday Night Live crew and all of these other people who claim to be, and Jon Stewart, the difference is what you just saw, that Bill Maher, first of all, attempted to have these people come and sit with him, and he found out that right-wingers would come and sit with him. I've told this story before, I think, on this show, but if not, I'll tell it right now. When I worked with Andrew Breitbart before Andrew died, Bill Maher had Andrew Breitbart come on his show many times. A couple of times I would go with Andrew. I'd be part of his, little entourage as he went to the place where they taped Bill Maher's real-time show in Television City in the middle of downtown Los Angeles, or south of Hollywood in Los Angeles. And we would go there, hang out in the green room, which was full of Bill Maher's writers and all of the liberal and left-wing people. So it's like, me and Alex Marlowe and a couple of other people were, Andrew's posse, and we were way outnumbered. And then afterwards, there was an after party at the Maggiano's over at the Grove in Los Angeles. And Bill Maher's writers were outraged that Bill would talk and socialize and laugh with Andrew Breitbart at the party. I tell this story to explain to you that the reason why Bill Maher has not gone as far as the rest in being completely blinded in rage and hate is that he did not go that extra step to dehumanize us. He actually did talk with us. He would sit. When you sit and you drink with somebody and you laugh at somebody's joke, and Coulter goes on his show all the time, by the way, but none of these other people would do that. None of these other people would talk to Charlie Kirk, talk to Andrew Breitbart or Ann Coulter. They wouldn't give them the time of day. You think Ben Shapiro will ever be invited on Jimmy Kimmel's show or Stephen Colbert's show? No, but they'd be smart to do it. Not only would it be great television, but also, you see, this is the reason why they don't invite them. This is the reason why they don't have them on. Because the second you actually have a conversation with somebody, you have to acknowledge their humanity. You have to acknowledge that they deserve a seat next to you, that their voice deserves to be heard. and the rest of them can't bring themselves to it. I will carve out a little bit of credit to Jimmy Fallon, who recently had Greg Gutfeld on his show. But the rest of them aren't like this. See, the reason why Bill Maher is a little bit different is what he just explained. That these people are not demons. These people are not two-dimensional cardboard cutouts of Adolf Hitler that we can prop up and then burn down with a flamethrower every night for our own personal satisfaction and for our own personal wealth, by the way. You see, the second you acknowledge your political opponent's humanity, it makes it a lot harder for you to destroy them in every possible way. And that's the difference. That said, Bill Maher slips into his liberal trap of saying that both sides are equally guilty of violence. And again, I just want to be clear here. Yes, there is political violence on both sides of the aisle. It's stupid to suggest otherwise. But it's completely asymmetrical. It is not even close to being even in terms of the violence perpetrated against conservatives and the right and churches and conservative politicians for political purposes than it is toward the left. But here's Bill Maher slipping into the trap.
Both sides have to admit they do it. Stop with the, yeah, but, the right wing, absolutely true. The right wing has been terrible. There's a lot of right-wing lunatics and nationalists and fucking violent people and marching in Charlottesville and lots of bullshit that goes on and killing. We can't have that argument because plainly the left does it too now. I don't care who started it. Everybody both started it always in these fights. It escalates. It goes up and up and up and up and up. And then we're just on these two sides screaming at each other. Stop it. It has to start with everybody is doing this now and everybody has to stop.
Yeah, everybody has to stop now that it's obvious that we've done it more and we're more guilty. It's funny how that works. Charlottesville, he mentioned, where one guy in a car killed a protester and he was swiftly arrested and prosecuted, and nobody on the right defended him. Nobody on the right celebrated the death of the woman in Charlottesville. And by the way, the left immediately lied about Donald Trump on Charlottesville and tried to turn it into a political weapon and paint everybody as a murderer. January 6th, over 1,000 people had their life destroyed over criminal investigations from the Justice Department after January 6th, when the only person who actually lost their life there that day was Ashley Babbitt, who was killed by a person who was given immediate immunity and free of any investigation because Nancy Pelosi wanted to cover her own ass. Meanwhile, we had a congressman nearly murdered by the left. We had a president, twice assassination attempts in just 1 year with no discussion of that. And now we have Charlie Kirk. I mean, I'm sorry, the corpses are sort of piling up on one side of this issue compared to the other. And now we're supposed to virtuously stand up and wring our hands and say, well, it is a both sides issue. Sorry. It's not even close to being even. And the president reiterated that.
Well, the problem is on the left. If you look at the problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left. And when you look at the agitators, you look at the scum that speaks so badly of our country, the American flag burnings all over the place, that's the left. That's not the right.
That's right. And you probably know of the statistics that the former FBI director, Christopher Wray, and other politicians and media figures continue to spew, which is the greatest threat to domestic terrorism in America is from conservative white Christian men. They're the biggest threat. That's where all the violence is coming from. It's all right-wing violence. That's the really thing. It's like, where are you getting this from? Where are you getting this from? Well, here's a good look at it. Alex Norosta, Cato Institute. He's all about the numbers, and he's Cato, So that means he's not a right-winger. He's not a left-winger. He's just looking for the truth, because libertarians are always about the truth. So here's a chart that's been making the rounds. Politically motivated killers and their victims by domestic partisan ideology. broken down into 5-year periods going back to 1975. And look at that, 1995 to 99, right-wing murders, 185. That's huge. But it continues, 2015, 2019, 63, 2020 to 2025, 44 murders. It's like it seems overwhelming that it's all right-wing murders. But here's the interesting thing about this, if I may. It's shocking. Look at 2000 and 2004. Have you noticed? I mean, I would have thought there would have been a giant graph of 3,000 people murdered for political reasons in the year 2001 here in America, right? That was a politically motivated murder, 9/11, and yet it's nowhere to be seen on the right or the left. Now, we know that that was an anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish terror attack brought out by crazy radical left-wing jihadists. Maybe they don't fit neatly into the left-wing or right-wing, but that didn't get counted in this graph. That seems a little odd. That seems a little skewed, doesn't it? In fact, somebody else pointed out something that was really fascinating because the numbers seem kind of small in the last 10 years. There's a reason for that. Every anti-government figure in this chart is considered right-wing. That means Antifa. So if you're an Antifa, anti-US, anti-federal government protester and terrorist, and you murder, let's say, an ICE agent because you hate ICE enforcing immigration laws, well, this chart would put you in the right-wing murderer column, because this chart counts any anti-government murderer as a right-wing murderer. Can I repeat that? If you're a Black Lives Matter protester and you killed a cop, you were put in the right-wing murders column in this chart. Those are the statistics backing up the idea that it's right-wing terrorism and violence that we should be afraid of. Congressman Eric Swalwell decided to quadruple down on the stupid by claiming that it doesn't matter that Kirk Miller was a straight white male. Hold on, he was a straight white male. He was having sex with a guy with a penis. Sorry, I was late on that. Only in Eric Swalwell's California reality is a guy who's living with and in love with and having sex with a male who dresses up as a furry and a female straight. That tells you something about Eric Swalwell's proclivities. All right, let me get this straight. So you're a dude and you have sex with a person that has a penis, and that person but does the person dress like, how do they dress? Oh, in a furry costume? Oh, all right. But when they're a furry, are they a male, female, furry? What is it? Oh, female? Okay, then you're straight. That's fine. I'm Eric Swalwell. That's how I measure these things. Or that he was from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. Violence has never been the answer. So there's Eric Swalwell, who said, well, his family's Republican and white, and it's Utah, and they voted for Trump. So clearly, this is another case of right-wing violence. And this is what they continue to do. You see this stuff and you want to lose hope. You see this stuff and your head is going to explode. And that there's no rationalizing with people who are either willfully ignorant of the facts right in front of them, ignore the facts because they don't want it to intrude on their beautiful virtual reality that they've created, that we're all Hitler and Nazi and fascists and they're angels. Or they're just stupid. Could be that. Could be that. Your head could easily explode, and you can dive and spiral deep into a rage-filled depression, knowing that there's no way out of this. But I'm glad you stuck around this long with us, pals. because there is a way out, and we saw the way out this weekend. The way out is each and every one of us joining arms, joining hands, locking shoulders, and doing whatever little bit we can to shine that light. Here's a great example. Look at this dude who saw some anti-Charlie Kirk graffiti on the side of his expressway, and he pulled out. First, he went to a Home Depot, got some white paint, and then pulled over on the side of the road. This is in Houston, and decided that he was going to do a little cleanup project there. And he was going to paint over the anti-Charlie Kirk graffiti. Oh, by the way, that dude is Senator Ted Cruz. That's leading by example. I love that. A little bit more happened this weekend that should give you hope. Did you go to church? Was it the first time you've been to church in a while? If not, great. But did you notice something different at church this weekend? Did you notice it was a little harder to find a parking spot? Did you notice it was a little harder to find a seat? You're not alone.
Charlie Kirk, look what you did. No parking. No parking at all. None. Had to park like 5 blocks away from church because everyone wants to come now. Amen. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Charlie.
Amen to that as well. Meanwhile, even in Canada, yes, Canada, something happened up there that has Charlie Kirk's heavenly fingerprints all over it. That's right. At a prayer vigil and candlelight vigil for Charlie Kirk in Canada, the Canucks got themselves together and sang our national anthem. And you may be thinking to yourself, how do they know the words to our national anthem? Well, it's easy. It's what they always hear when their hockey team plays us in the gold medal. They're going to hear our national anthem at the end of the day because we kick their butts. That was gratuitous, but it's true lately. I just like to remind my friends in Canada that it has been over 30 years since they've won the Stanley Cup. So, of course, they're used to hearing our national anthem. That's Canada. What about California? Well, here's Huntington Beach, California, maybe the last bastion of freedom and liberty in the Golden State. That is humanity as far as the eye can see in freedom-loving Huntington Beach, California at sunset, right on the Golden Coast there. And that's an amazing thing to see. California is pretty liberal, pretty Democrat dominated. But look at those flags and look at those people getting out to show their support and to say a prayer for Charlie. You know where else it's pretty liberal and pretty left-wing and pretty Democrat? Washington, D.C. And without hardly any notice at all, no public announcements or advertisements, an impromptu vigil was scheduled for the Kennedy Center. Look at the lineup outside the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. for a prayer vigil for Charlie Kirk. We conservatives, we Republicans in Washington, we often feel like a minority. We joke that the Republican Party meets in Washington in a phone booth. We don't even have phone booths anymore. But the room got a little bit bigger for conservatives who love Charlie Kirk. It was a hell of a scene. In fact, it was so crowded that they had to turn people away who had waited for a couple of hours to get in. I have friends who didn't make it in. They ended up going to a pub nearby and doing their own special vigil for Charlie Kirk. But if you did make it inside, you saw a couple of extraordinary displays of emotion and tribute to Charlie Kirk. But I think my favorite goes to the Secretary of Health and Human Services. 2 quick clips from Robert Kennedy Jr. before we close things out today. You've got to see this.
The 17-year-old niece left for Europe to go to college. And while she was packing, her mother, Amaryllis, my daughter-in-law, noticed that she had put a Bible in her suitcase. And Amaryllis was curious about it. And she asked her, and Zoe said to her, "I want to live like Charlie Kirk."
I think Charlie would be happy with that tribute, especially coming from Mr. Kennedy. People don't know this, and it was revealed yesterday by Secretary Kennedy himself that he and Charlie Kirk have been friends for many, many years. And one other thing was revealed here. One other thing that should be part of the ongoing, very lengthy, incredible legacy of Charlie Kirk. Listen to this.
And over the next couple of years, our friendship blossomed. He ended up being the primary architect of my unification with President Trump, which I did my endorsement at his rally, at the Turning Point rally in Scottsdale. And he was the one who put the sparklers on the stage when I shook it. He made a big show of it. But
I love that moment. And by the way, I just wanted to show you that was the moment there. I wrote about this morning on my Substack. It was Charlie's idea to put the sparklers because Charlie had a sense of the dramatic. He had a sense of the event and the moment and recognized how what you're seeing right there, was quite possibly the most critical, monumental, game-changing political alliance that we will see in our lifetimes. Think about it for a minute. A Kennedy, a left-wing, pro-choice, climate change activist Democrat, setting aside his political disagreements with Donald Trump to join him for a political coalition and shake hands and join Donald Trump's movement. Donald Trump, the populist conservative Republican, setting aside his difference with Robert Kennedy, joining forces and creating what I do believe was the game-changing moment of the 2024 presidential campaign. In fact, go back and look. We were on the air that day. This show broadcast that day, and I believe I said it at the time, that this is the game changer. This may be the union that wins the presidency for Donald Trump. And understand what Secretary Kennedy just revealed. This was Charlie Kirk's doing. You tune into any cable news program or broadcast news program this weekend, and they bring out their seasoned professional political analysts, the people who have been around, your David Axelrod or your Karl Roves or your James Carvilles, because they ran campaigns and they won presidential campaigns for Obama and Bush and Clinton, and these are the seasoned veterans, and not one of them ever pulled off anything as game-changing and remarkable as getting Kennedy and Trump together. Charlie Kirk did that. And of course, Charlie Kirk was never invited on any of those shows to give his political analysis. He didn't even graduate college. He doesn't even go to the right restaurants in Washington, D.C. He doesn't even live in Washington, D.C. Who cares about what Charlie Kirk thinks? He doesn't understand politics. He's just a Yahoo podcaster, talk radio host, activist. Charlie Kirk engineered the greatest political alliance of our lifetimes. he got Kennedy and Trump together. The man was a genius. And, there's a lot of noise right now about how we should be compelled to set aside our differences, figure out what we have in common, join hands, and try to forge ahead with those things that we agree on, those things that we have in common, right? We're hearing that all the time. Why can't people on both sides of the political aisle just get together and figure out what they can accomplish together instead of constantly fighting? And let's actually do something for the good of the country. I mean, look at that. That's what that is. That's what Charlie did. Is there any better example of setting aside your political differences for the good of the country than Bobby Kennedy and Donald Trump getting together, where MAGA meets Maha, and figuring out what we can do and what we can accomplish for the American people? Charlie did that. And yet they still slime him and slander him as a right-wing extremist. It's inexplicable and it's unacceptable. And it's what passes as typical political commentary in America today. But you know better. You're better than that. Okay, so that's all the great stuff that we saw over the weekend at the vigils, and the hope and the growth and the unity and all of that stuff. I'm sad to say that it's now time to show you all of the violence, all of the riots, conservatives angry that Charlie Kirk has been assassinated in cold blood, obviously took to the streets, shut down traffic, burned down neighborhoods. Oh no. Actually, none of that happened. We didn't do anything like that. We didn't march. We didn't stop traffic. We didn't disrupt lives. We didn't flip over cars and set them on fire. We didn't chant in the streets. We prayed. We locked arms. We held each other. And then we picked ourselves up, stood side by side, and started walking forward toward the light. It's why we win, and it's why they hate us so much that they have to lie about us to try to win an argument. But we are better than that. We know better than that. And in the end, we will be triumphant.